So you're going to head to this URL. It's google.com/business. And I'm going to paste that in the chat box as well. But you can just write it down on your notepad, google.com/business. And you'll need to have a Gmail account set up in order to do this. And I recommend setting up a brand new Gmail account for each client that you work with, just to kind of keep things separate. Okay, so I'm landing here on my dashboard, but in most cases, you're not going to land there. You're going to land on this page. And it's going to give you 3 different choices: a storefront, service area, or brand. Okay, so primarily, we're never going to be using brand. We're going to always be using storefront and service area. So a storefront would be like, like a dentist. People go into the location, whereas a service area would be where you're going out to the customer, so like a heating and cooling company or something like that. Okay, so let's just roll with the service area example. So now we're going to be presented with this screen. It's a big, giant map. Okay, and you want to go and start by punching in the business's address or phone number or whatever information you have. So I normally just like to search by phone number. And I'm going to show you some of the different scenarios we come across. So I'm going to type in a phone number here. You can see it pulled up the listing, and I'll try to zoom in on this a little bit more. It pulled up the listing, and when I click on it, it pops up this dialog. Someone else has already verified this listing. So what that means is that there's already a listing there. The business owner has likely already claimed it, or someone else has. And basically, if you want to take control over it and be able to manage it and optimize it and get it ranked, you just click this blue button. An email will be sent out to the business owner with a link to verify that they want to give you access over it, and then you'll be able to make changes to it. So this scenario is really easy. So that's one scenario that we see pretty often. Another scenario we see is when we punch in the phone number. We're presented with listings, and this is actually a really good example because in this case, there's duplicate listings. So when you come across a listing that has duplicate listings, where there's more than one of them, the solution is you need to claim them all. You need to get them all claimed and verified, and then you want to delete the ones that you're not using. So, maybe check and see which one's indexed by just Googling the name, and if you see it pop up, then that's the one you want to keep, and then delete the other ones. But let me show you this scenario. So let's say this was the business I was working with. I click on it, and now it's saying, okay, we need to create the Google Plus page so you can manage it. Please confirm that you're authorized to manage this business. So we'll click that and we'll hit continue. And what's going to happen is it's going to give us some verification options. It says they can either call us with a verification code or mail it to us. So let me explain to you what those 2 options are. If they can call you with the code, they're going to call you at the number that's listed, and you just let your client know, hey, Google's going to be calling, write down the code for me, and then call me right back with it. So if you can do that, that's great. You're verified right away instantly, and you don't have to wait. But in a lot of cases, you need to get the code mailed to you, and that takes 1 to 2 weeks. So that's okay too, but that's just another scenario you'll run across. So this is kind of like the first steps, is getting the listing claimed and verified. And in the case of duplicate listings, you want to claim and verify them all, and then delete the ones that are duplicates. Okay, so what happens if your listing isn't found at all? Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've entered it in correctly, and it didn't find it. I'm going to click this little thing here, this button. Now it's going to give me the option to go ahead and create it. So this is great. Let me just walk through this process with you. It's very straightforward. So we're going to enter in the business name. So let's just say it's let's just say AA Plumbing Pros or something like that. Let's do Heating Pros. Okay, you're going to enter in the street address. No P.O. boxes. If there's a suite number because they're in an office building or something like that, you can type out the full word suite on the next line here. Or you can just punch in the number sign like that, number 123. Okay, so I'm going to just leave it as 123 Water Street. We'll punch in the city, punch in the state. I'm in Wisconsin, so select that. Punch in the zip code, and then the main business phone number. You can always change this phone number later when you set up a tracking phone number. So for now, you can just use the business owner's number or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you can change that later. Okay, so we're good to go. The next box you see is category. So this is pretty important because you want to build out your website in a way where it kind of emphasizes your categories on Google My Business. So what I like to do is I like to have a notepad beside me while I'm creating these listings, and I like to write down the categories. And the way I find them out is I just start typing in key phrases that I think people would categorize a heating and cooling company under. So I might start off by typing in HVAC, which stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And you'll notice I'm presented with this drop-down box that says HVAC contractor. So I'll write that down if that fits what they do, and then I'm going to delete it and try again. So let's try heating. Okay, I'm presented with heating contractor, heating equipment supplier, heating oil supplier. So I would write down on the notepad all the ones that fit. So on and so forth. Furnace, write down all the ones that fit. So when you create the listing from scratch, you can only roll with one of them to start with. But after the listing is up and running, you can come back in and you can add in as many categories as you want. But since we're going to be waiting 1 to 2 weeks for the postcard to come, you want to have your categories picked out so that we can work on the website in the meantime. All right, so that's category research in a nutshell. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think it's kind of self-explanatory. All right, so next is this checkbox. Do you deliver goods and services to customers at their location? So check that if that's true, like a heating company goes out and visits, businesses at their location. If it's not true, then you can uncheck it. But in my case, it's true, so I'm just going to hit continue. All right, so if I check that, it's going to give me options to either punch in each area code that I service. So I can punch in the zip codes for them individually, just like this. Or an easier way is to just say, okay, I service within a 20-mile, let me hit continue again, I accidentally hit back. I service a 20-mile radius around my business. Okay, so you can ask your client what the radius is that they serve, and then you're good to go. I wouldn't recommend going further than like 40 to 50-mile radius because in most cases you're going to end up in another city. And if that's the case, you probably want to look at creating another listing in that city to get kind of the maximum benefit. Okay, but I'll just leave 20 in there, and then there's also this option. I also serve customers at my business address. So think of like a flower shop. They've got people coming in to their office. They also deliver for funerals, weddings, and that kind of thing, right? So I would probably check this box in that scenario, but I'm not going to check it because heating and cooling company likely doesn't service customers at, at their location. Like they don't have customers coming in really. Okay, so also leaving this box unchecked will also hide your address. So let's go back to the cleaning company example. Do you see how some companies have their address here? And then some, it just says Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you leave this box checked, it's going to show your address. If you leave it unchecked, it'll just show the city. So if you are going to go the route of creating a lead generation listing, and you're going to leave it like a generic business name, you probably don't want the address showing, right? Because you don't want people coming to your location since there's really not going to be anyone there most likely. All right, so we'll hit continue. We'll say we're authorized to manage this business. And it's going to look the same, and then it's going to give us our verification options. Pretty simple. Okay, so any questions on this right now? I'll take a couple questions, and of course we'll do a longer question and answer session at the end. Okay, I'm just looking through the questions here. Okay, someone said, but what if the business owner already has a website? It's totally fine, and I'm going to show you how we're going to handle the website, but basically you're going to build out an entirely separate website just for the purpose of ranking in the 7-pack. You can leave their existing website intact, but we're going to just create a separate one, and we're going to link it up with the listing.